Thanks for listening to the Underdog podcast presented by the Riley Decker Companies. Please do us a favor and help us change and improve lives by subscribing and giving us a rating on the platform of your choice. Thank you. All right, super excited to have Blanca Burns on the Underdog podcast. Welcome to the UDP.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give you a quick intro and then we'll jump right in. So Blanca is the first Mexican woman referee in NBA history. Burns earned that incredible accomplishment when she took to the court to ref a game between the Utah Jazz and the San Antonio Spurs this past December 27th, 2021. She paid the bills. This is an Underdog story in itself. Paid the bills by working with kids, I think at age 3, games at a local YMCA amongst many different places. Then eventually became a referee in the NCAA in the NBA G League before she had that chance in the NBA. So incredible story, Blanca. So happy to have you. How does it feel to break glass and make history? Has it really set in? I know the season has come to an end, I think, for you from an NBA perspective, but has it really set in that you were the first Mexican woman to referee an NBA game?
Yeah, just to actually hear you say that right now, it still kind of gives me goosebumps. It's something that has been such a blessing. And it's just, I honestly, I still can't believe that it happened. I'm just so grateful that I was given the opportunity to do that. So definitely excited and I'm just loving it. So
absolutely. It sounds like they might be dinging you to come to the NBA finals, but going into, working with 3-year-olds. So I have a 3-year-old, and I know you were reffing a lot of games with little kids at a local, YMCA and different things. I can't imagine going from 3-year-old to little kids now to, working with the likes of reffing LeBron James. So can you kind of tell me a little bit of that experience?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was just a college student, just trying to make it and figure out what I could do on the side just to get a little more money to pay for the things that I wanted to do. And so I actually was at a basketball practice. I played Division II basketball. I played at University of Central Oklahoma, and then I transferred over to Mid-America Christian where I graduated. But during one of our practices, our coach actually asked me and my teammates if any of us would be interested in refereeing at the YMCA, which happened to be like across the street from our where our facility was. And a few of my teammates and I were like, we might as well just try it. Why not? Let's do it. I think at that time they were paying like $15 per game. And so games wouldn't be longer than an hour. So we're like, hey, that's not a bad gig. So started there. And then, like you said, I kind of just worked my way up and did pretty much every single level after that. Till this day, I'll never forget my first high school varsity game. That was such a big deal, such a big day for me. And yeah, I just started to work my way up. High school, I did JUCO, Division III, Division II, Division I, and then finally worked my way up to pro. So it's really been a very cool experience.
Yeah, I actually recently engaged. My brother has a first grader that's playing up in a second grader, but I went to one of these AAU tournaments. I think you're quoted as actually the intensity and kind of the craziness of some of these stories that I saw, like parents coming onto the court, they're yelling at you. I could see why you actually said this quote. You said, you kind of were ready. They're pretty fierce and they don't hold back, talking about, kind of middle school, little, kids and their parents, more importantly, putting myself in those intense situations at the lower levels helped me in the NBA. So I'm sitting there thinking, man, how is that really possible? Now I go to my brother's AAU tournament. I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I could see it's, parents are walking onto the court. They're yelling. There was fighting. There's cops coming into the AAU tournament. And it was a wild scene. So I'm sure that did help you, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, the parents at these lower levels sometimes get a little bit out of control. And so, especially when I was doing that early, I knew I would get yelled at, but I guess I never really expected it to be as bad as it was. And so when it was, I just quickly realized that I just had to just, kind of stay quiet, just do my job, get in and get out of there. So yeah, but all of those little situations and those moments really tested me emotionally as well. And so I had to use that, and it helped me throughout my career to get to where I am at today. So
Yeah, I know. It seems like they're always the players. I've been really locked into these NBA playoffs, and it seems like the players are constantly talking to you guys. I mean, it's like a 24/7. It's amazing. I guess in business, it's like trying to stay focused. I was trying to translate, okay, what is like being a referee in an NBA game to like business to try to translate it for people. But I guess there's so much noise in business coming at you. It's like, okay, how do you stay focused on your job? That's got to be really hard when these guys are constantly grabbing your attention or saying things. And obviously sometimes I'm sure it's not as appropriate as it should be, but can you kind of talk about the focus it takes to do your job with the fans yelling at you, the players yelling at you at times, or, coaches yelling at you? Like how do you stay focused?
Yeah, it definitely adds a different a level of challenge, I would say. And ultimately for us, you just kind of have to fill out the situation. A lot of the times players and coaches just want to be heard. So being good listeners really goes a long way. Now, if they do require an answer, like if they're asking a legit question, then I'll first ask them, okay, like, do you want me to answer that, or do you just want to continue to vent to me? Right. And so they're like, yeah, no, I want to know what I did wrong. So then as soon as they do that, then I can professionally explain what they did. Right. And then there's times where it's just the reality of the business that we're just going to agree to disagree, and I'll have to just tell them just like that. Hey, you know what? Like, I respect what you're saying, but at this point, we'll just have to move on and agree to disagree on this particular play. So ultimately, it's just keeping it professional and really being a good listener.
Yeah, it's really good advice to diffuse a situation. Sometimes it is, versus just arguing about it forever. It's just, we're going to agree to disagree. Let's move on with the game for both of us. That's interesting. So I knew you were born in obviously Mexico. And can you talk about, let's kind of go reverse. So we kind of talked about making history, breaking glass, kind of the current state of affairs. Let's go back to where you were born and moving into El Paso, Texas, and kind of build. How did your upbringing help create your, I guess, some of that thick skin, you could call it, as far as being able to handle adversity or intense situations? Did growing up in Mexico and moving to El Paso help that?
Oh, 100%. I think that really made me who I am today. I was born in Torreon, Coahuila, Mexico, which is like the northern part of Mexico. For those of you that don't know, the closest beach to us, because everyone's like, Mexico, okay, what's the closest beach? I don't know if you've heard, but Mazatlan, Mexico is about 4 hours from Torreon. So me, I have two sisters and obviously my two parents that are still living, thank God. So it was just a rough time in Mexico. And, Dad just thought that it would be a good idea just to, try his best to make a better life for us, for me and my two sisters. And so sure enough, he moved us and we didn't have much. I had maybe $20 in the pocket, not a whole lot. And we actually had an aunt that lived in El Paso, Texas. And so we actually ended up moving in with her. And we all lived in one room, just kind of like while my parents got on their feet. And so just to see the work that my parents did to try to just build a better life for my sisters and I, like that's something that I'm never going to forget. And I just feel like I'll never be able to repay them for everything that they did and everything they sacrificed, because all of their siblings, everyone is still in Mexico, so it was definitely, I'm sure, very challenging. And as a young girl, you don't really think about all that stuff, but now that I'm older, I've really been able to just look back at my life and just say, wow, like, I'm just really grateful that my parents did this, because if it weren't for them, obviously I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I lived in El Paso up till my junior year of high school. I went to Montwood High School in El Paso, and my dad finally, got on his feet, got a promotion, and ended up getting a job in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so that's pretty much how we ended up in Oklahoma. And I graduated from Tulsa Union in 2005. So, yeah.
And you say, ever since I was a little girl, I always had a basketball in my hand. So it sounds like your dad put the basketball in your hand pretty early, huh?
Yeah, or I'll never forget this either. As young girls, whenever we would go to the supermarket, I I would always like run away, like to where the balls were. You know how they have those big piles of balls? I would always go there, and my dad and mom always knew where to find me. They freaked out a few times, but my dad always had this whistle that he would do that you could hear throughout the whole store. So I knew if I heard that I was in trouble and I'd better go find them. So, but yeah, they always did an awesome job of just like, we didn't have much, but the little that we did have, it's like I never felt, that we didn't have a lot. So yeah, putting a basketball in my hand was something that my parents did at a very young age. So
do you ever get the urge, like at these arenas, to get shots up? The referees, do you guys get a little ball in? Like, do you guys get a little workout in? Or?
Yeah, I definitely get the urge, for sure. I just think it's in me. But yeah, no, like whenever I'm like just working out at the gym, I'll still go and shoot. Or me and my husband will go to the local park and just play horse, or around the world. I still like to get some shots up. So definitely.
That's great. That is fantastic. I think something you talk about, the humble beginnings of your parents, trying to provide for you and your sisters, and the amount of hard work that took. I think also talking about, I think it was like $25 a game I have it at for 4 games, where you're reffing a lot of these youth tournaments and different things. So you're working majority a half a day, almost a full day for $100, getting yelled and screamed at, running up and down the court, probably in a hot gym. A lot of people probably see Blanca on TV, on ESPN, and think, man, they might assume the path was hard. They might assumed it wasn't. I don't really know, but can you shine light on the grit and grind of, working basically for not a lot in earning your way now, transitioning from that basketball player, like you said, as an early child, to then high school to college, great career, now into, working through the ranks of being a referee?
Yeah, so that's actually a great point that you bring up. And I'm not sure if you know of the iceberg illusion, or if you've ever seen that before, but it kind of shows the tip of the iceberg, right? Where they're like, oh, wow, look, Blanca's in the NBA. That's awesome. But like you said, right at the bottom of the water, they don't see, like the hard work, the perseverance, the injuries, just the constant grind to stay healthy and run with the highest athletes in the world. So it's definitely a grind. And like you said, I mean, there were days where on Saturdays I would go and work 10 games a day for $20. Like that in itself, like I still go back and I'm like, I really did that. Right. And so then you just go back and think about like, oh gosh, what was I doing to my body? Like that's a lot on the body physically, and also like obviously emotionally, and like it was just so much. But I would say all those little situations got me to where I am today. I have had a few injuries. The very first camp that I went to try to get hired on the women's side for Division I had worked so hard that summer. I had studied the rules. I had done everything that I thought that I could do. And I had finally gotten my first Division I contract, and then come to find out during that same time, I tore my ACL. So I was unable to referee in that season that I had worked so hard for. And I just really, really wanted it. And I couldn't understand why the timing happened when it did. But now, hindsight being older, like I needed that time off I still was very engaged. I would still study my rules. I would be watching games. And so then the next time I got on the floor after all the hard rehab that I had to do, I was ready. My rules knowledge was better, and physically I was stronger as well, actually, just because of all the physical therapy that I had to do. So there have definitely been a lot of struggles, a lot of ups and downs, but throughout those situations, it really, I feel like really made me stronger and paved the way to get to where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's awesome that you've overcome. That's a tough physical setback to come back from. So congratulations on that. You talk about the mental side of the business. I think that's something as a player, or now even a referee, that's somewhat understated, or not maybe it's misinterpreted by but the public, of maybe how much time and effort that's actually put into that work by players and referees, coaches, et cetera. Can you touch upon that commitment to watching film, to studying the game, to understanding all those different variances?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of what we do. And honestly, one of the biggest challenges is actually traveling. We literally live out of our luggage. And you don't stay in a hotel for more than 2 nights. right? And so then as soon as that happens, you're headed to the other place, right? So it's just a constant grind. And the most stressful thing is by far the travel, right? Because then stuff happens like when you have a snowstorm coming and you just have to figure out a way to, you have to get to the game, and so there's a lot of stress, because we just fly commercial, whereas the players, they have their private jets. We're just flying commercial just like anyone else. And so we definitely face those struggles that any other traveler does. But yeah, once we get to the hotel room, it's sometimes really hard to sleep, because there's times where we have to be up at 5 a.m. to catch a 6 a.m. flight. And then we'll have a game that night, because there's times where we have back-to-back games. So we have one game one night and one game the other day. And so it's just like trying to find time for sleep is also a struggle. And so just that 20-minute power nap, if you can on the plane, is extremely helpful, but we have day of game meetings every day that we have a game. So we have to meet at 11 a.m. with the crew to kind of just prepare for the game, talk about matchups, talk about what we're going to face for that night. So, and then after the game is over, then especially in the G League, we probably watch 2 hours of film after the game, just breaking it down. So we're not going to bed until 2 in the morning at times, and then we have to get a 5 a.m. flight. So it's definitely a grind, like anything else, but it really does make it all worth it once you get to step out on the floor and do what you love. So.
Wow. How about that? Day in the life, just learn that there's a little bit more than I even thought. Go to the game, watch film after for 2 hours, catch a 5 a.m. flight, on it. We need to talk to Adam Silver. I know this is the G League might be a little different, but the NBA, we need to get you guys some jets.
Yeah, I know, right?
Come on, NBA. Let's get these referees right. That's fantastic. So, I think as far as setting an example, I just became a girl dad myself. So I had a daughter, Reese, that turns 1 next month. Super, super excited and so fired up to have you on today, Blanca, for many different reasons, but selfishly because I have 2 boys and I just had a girl. So I've kind of had a different lens turn on in my life, in leaving a legacy. It's fantastic. If my daughter now wants to be a female referee, I know there's more than just you now. There's multiple. But can you talk about legacy that you're leaving for obviously people from Mexico or from your country, but also for little girls out there? If they want to be a referee, they can look at Blanca Burns now.
Oh man, thank you so much. First of all, just thank you for saying that. That means everything. And congratulations to you on being a girl dad. That's got to be awesome. And you have a lot of great times coming ahead of you. So that's great. But yeah, my hope is just to, continue to do that, and even if it's 1 little girl or 2 little girls, just to let them know that it's possible, it's possible for a female to be in a man's world and still, be very successful at it. So I would just say to all the little girls out there, do it. Why not? And don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't. The path may not always be easy, or may run into some hard times here and there, but like I told you and like I did, those hard times make you stronger. So just continue to do it. Don't lose hope. Don't lose motivation. You can do anything that you set your mind to.
That's fantastic. Was there someone in particular, Blanca, that inspired you? I mean, did someone drive you outside of you? And you talked about your parents, but is there anyone else that inspired you as far as becoming a referee?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always, Lauren Holtkamp was one of the first ones that I watched. She actually did a show on, I'm so sorry about the video.
Oh, you're good.
She did a show on ESPN, and I believe it was called Summer Dreams. And I remember watching it and I was like, oh my gosh, like that is awesome. And like, I want to do that, So Lauren was definitely one that inspired me. But I actually also have a group of friends, and there's about 6 of us that we all kind of came up through the G League together and even college together. And so to get to now work pro with them, and, we've kind of all been through the same path. That little group has really, we just kind of always help each other kind of get through those hard times and even the good times, So I would say we all kind of like inspire each other in that way.
That's great. Now, usually want our episodes to be timeless, but I have to, because the NBA finals are upon us. So this is kind of stating where the current episode's being recorded. But has any female done the NBA finals to date? And then if not, what do you think, when can that happen? Because I'd love to see that happen.
Well, I think the NBA honestly has done a great job of putting females out there. Even in the G League right now, like we've had a few games where it's like an all-female crew. And now the players are just like, oh, okay, no big deal. Like now they're starting to see it more. And kudos to the NBA, for doing that and putting us out there. And there has been a few games where there has been 2 females on the crew in NBA games. And I'm hoping very soon we'll get to a point where you will see a female out there, but just like everyone else, just like the males, we have to work our way up, and we have to prove that we can do it just, like they can. So it definitely takes time, but the NBA has done a great job of putting us out there. So kudos to them for continuing to do that.
Yeah, I listen to, I'm sure sometimes you might have to hit the mute button, but I'm listening to all those guys on ESPN, always critiquing the referees. You guys don't get a lot of comments. It's always Stan Van Gundy or Mark Jackson, critiquing, but sometimes giving some compliments. But it is it's a tough job. I mean, it is never usually it's always no news is probably good news in your line. But do you ever listen to hearing those guys and you're like, man, they don't know what they're talking about, or maybe sometimes they do? I'm just curious. What is it when you're listening to a game and you're hearing Mark Jackson and Stan Van Gundy being critical? What is your kind of thoughts?
Yeah, well, my thoughts, I think now is like, I get it. They want to win,
yeah.
So, there's going to be times where, they just, they may not have the right angle or whatever it may be. And so for me, it's like, I do appreciate just, their passion and wanting to win. And so, I really don't take that too personally anymore. But if obviously, they're right and there's a play, because we're not perfect. There's going to be plays, that we may not get right, and so that only helps us to, continue to just do video work and stay persistent and just getting better. So, you hear those comments all the time. And for us now, it's just like, you just got to keep it professional and keep it moving. So,
yeah. I know a lot of coaches talk about the next play, right? Is really compartmentalizing the game. Do you guys do that in your line of business as well? Or do you try to look at each time you go down the court as kind of its own segment where you can say, okay, whatever just happened down the court, maybe there was a very debatable charge, or if it was, whatever the call may be, but now you're on the other side of the court. Is there like a neutral mindset? Is there a short-term mindset? Like, how do you transition from adversity in the game in a moment quickly? Do you press pause for a minute, or not a minute? You don't have that much time, but a second. Is there anything that you think of mentally to keep you up to the top of your game?
Yeah, that's actually part of our training. When we go to camps and we're doing summer events, like we're taught to just, these plays happen so fast, right? And unlike you guys watching from TV, we don't get 9 angles. We get one shot to make the right decision. And so doing that, there's obviously times where it's like, oh man, I may have kicked that, I may have not, but ultimately you don't know until you go back and watch it on film. So in that moment, all that you can do is just believe in yourself, believe that you made the right decision. But I will say it's easier said than done. There's times where you can get stuck thinking about it, and so the self-talk that we have to do is vital for what we do. So, if I am in a situation like that, then I just tell myself, okay, delete and reset, right? Just put that in a box here. And I'm not wrong until I go back and watch film, but I'm also not right until I go back and watch film. So I really just try to stay confident in my decision that I made live, and then just learn from it, if I didn't get it right after the game.
Yeah, I love that. I call them knowledge nuggets, delete and reset. Because I was curious, because you guys keep such an even keeled on the exterior. I was wondering what was on the interior of, like, okay, mentally, how do you keep your exterior to that neutrality of not getting too up and down? And obviously everyone loses their cool, including, people in your line of business in the referee side, because I'm sure it's hard. You see it all different levels and all different sports. You're human, right? And we're all innate to get emotions into things, but you guys do a great job. And delete and reset, we could translate that into any line of business as well. As far as we come to an end here, is there anything else that, you could leave for those that are maybe going through looking at Blanca, and maybe it's not referee, but it's, you know, a female in any line of business that sees a big barrier in front of them. Anything else that you could, you know, relay to females or even males of saying, okay, hey, this is, you know, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. You know, if I can do it, you can do it. And I think a lot of what has helped me is the support in my family. You know, my parents and sisters are nearby. They live in Tulsa, actually, and I'm now in Oklahoma City. But, you know, my husband has been my number one fan from the very beginning. Like, he was there watching me, you know, during Catholic League when I was just doing little tiny kids. And so it's been cool, you know, to have that support. And without that support, it makes this job very hard. You know, so having support of your family and your close friends is huge. And also, you know, keeping your priorities straight, right? Just understanding that there is life outside of basketball. So when we do come home and we're tired, you know, we still have to be present, you know, and be with our family. And so how do you balance that? So having that balance is huge. And that family support, I think is huge. But like you said, if I can do it, anyone else can do it. So do it.
Sure. And what is, that's great. What is next for Blanca? What's the future hold for Blanca Burns?
So my goal is to be in the NBA full time. You know, that would be my ultimate goal, and also to get to referee in the Olympics and represent Mexico. That would be such a dream, you know, just to think that I could even do that. And so I'm actually still doing FIBA right now, which is pretty much worldwide basketball. And I'm actually going to get to go to Spain here at the end of June to go and work the World Cup up there. And hopefully after that, I'll get the opportunity to possibly, I don't know if it can happen or not, but I'm going to try my hardest. And the goal is to, you know, maybe get to do the Olympics, you know, in Paris in 2024, but we'll just see what happens. You know, that's the goal that I'm setting for myself. And if it happens, great. And if not, then I'll just continue to grind until that dream becomes a reality.
I love it. I know you'll continue to work to get there, and we'll be rooting for you from the Underdog podcast. We all became big Blanca Burns fans. That's a tongue twister in itself, but we are super excited. Thank you for blessing us with your presence and inspiring hundreds of thousands of people. And as we talk about in our true north here at the Underdog podcast, to impact change or potentially save a life, I think you did that today, and can't thank you enough. So I know the best is ahead, and we wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Underdog Podcast. Please subscribe and rate our podcast on the Apple and Google podcast apps. Leave a 5-star rating and send our Twitter handle a screenshot of your rating at Underdog Pod with your shirt size for a chance to win a free t-shirt. See you next week on the UDP.